Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's see. Sixth canto, chapter 2, text 19. Krishna. Kindly repeat. Yata gadam viryatamam upayuktam yadrichaya ajanato pyatmagunam kuryan mantro pyudarita yatagadam viryatamam upayuktam yadrichaya ajanato pyatmagunam kuryan mantro pyudarita yatagadam viryatamam upayuktam yadrichaya ajanato pyatmagunam kuryan mantro pyudarita yatagadam viryatamam upayuktam yadrichaya ajanato pyatmagunam kuryan mantro pyudarita. Ladies, yata, just like agadam, medicine, viryatamam, very powerful, upayuktam, properly taken, yadrichaya, somehow or other, ajnanataha, by a person without knowledge. Api, even, Atma Gunam, its own potency. Kuryat, manifests. Mantraha, the Hare Krishna mantra. Api, also. Udaritaha, chanted. Translation. If a person unaware of the effective potency of a certain medicine takes that medicine or is forced to take it, it will act even without his knowledge, because its potency does not depend on the patient's understanding. Similarly, even though one does not know the value of chanting the holy name of the Lord, if one chants knowingly or unknowingly, the chanting will be very effective. Kindly repeat. If a person unaware of the effective potency of a certain medicine takes that medicine or is forced to take it, it will act even without his knowledge, because his potency does not depend on the patient's understanding. Similarly, even though one does not know the value of chanting the holy name of the Lord, if one chants knowingly or unknowingly, the chanting will be very effective. Purport of Srila Prabhupada. In the Western countries where the Hare Krishna movement is spreading, learned scholars and other thoughtful men are realizing its effectiveness. For example, Dr. G. Stilson Yuda, a learned scholar, has been very much attracted to this movement because he has actually seen that it is turning hippies addicted to drugs into pure Vaishnavas who voluntarily become servants of Krishna and humanity. Even a few years ago, such hippies did not know the Hare Krishna mantra, but now they are chanting it and becoming pure Vaishnavas. Thus they are becoming free from all sinful activities, such as illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. This is practical proof of the effectiveness of the Hare Krishna movement, which is supported in this verse. One may or may not know the value of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, but if one somehow or other chants it, he will immediately be purified, just as one who takes a potent medicine will feel its effects, regardless of whether he takes it knowingly or unknowingly. Om Ganati Mirandasya Ganagana Salakya Shakshu Anmilitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Svamitana. Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharna Nivisesa Sunivari Paskityare Satarani. So the verse was Yatagadam Viryatamam Upayuktam Yadrichaya Ajanato Pyatma Gunam Kuryan Mantra Pyudaritaha. If a person unaware of the effective potency of a certain medicine takes that medicine or is forced to take it, it will act even without his knowledge, because its potency does not depend on the patient's understanding. Similarly, even though one does not know the value of chanting the holy name of the Lord, if one chants knowingly or unknowingly, the chanting will be very effective. So this is beginning of 6th canto. Adyamil has entered the scene of the Bhagavatam. He's coming from a Brahmin family. He gets diverted and degraded to extreme degree. But due to his good karma, his good fortune of having such a pious background, that he actually gives the name of Narayan to his child. And then his last child, his small child, he's said something 80-year-old and still have a very small baby there. And that's the nature of parents, is that they're attached to the children in general. This way or that way, there's an attachment. So he's calling for Narayan all day long. Every now and then, maybe even with love. Of course, it's not exactly addressing Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is so calling for his child. But now he's coming to that stage which we all are going to come. He has come to the stage of death, when it's going to leave the body. And due to his sinful activities, the Yamadutas feels very inspired to pick him up and bring him to Yamaraj for proper treatment. We can say those who want to treat him. In Sweden, I'm from Sweden, background there. In Sweden we have prisons, but they're not called prisons. They're something like, almost like caretaking units or something. They take care of the poor criminals. Treating them, they're treating the criminals in a nice way. Okay, it's prisons. Okay, so Yamaraj, he also gives treatment to the criminal-like conditioned souls who, due to their ignorance of committing all kind of crimes, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, meat eating, or whatever, so many things. That's the basic crimes. So the Yamadutas came, and they were very good. Yamaduta, they were very dutiful. They want to make a good job, and this character should certainly be brought in front of Yamaraj. But then we know he's chanting the name of Narayan. Unknowingly or knowingly, actually chanting, calling for his small child. He's so helpless. He's lying there in the bed or wherever he's lying, and just feeling there, he's seeing these monstrous beings coming to take him away. So it's an intense state of fear. He's calling for Narayan. Because suffering is good. He was in a suffering condition. And that's, in one sense, is purifying. I thought of that. Certain purifications is required in order to effectively chant the holy name. Or certain purification is required in order to properly hear the holy name, properly hear anything. In any case, so he is at time of death, and he's scared to death. And he's calling for Narayan. And mysteriously enough, and that gives us great hope here, the Vishnu Dutas appears in the scene and saves the soul from entering into hell at that moment. They said he saves him from death at that moment. Because all well that ends well. Because the end of the story, he didn't go back home back to Godhead at that point. But he was revived, so he had a near-death experience. Of course, that's another part. We have the Yamadutas and the Vishnu Dutas end up in an argument, who is to take this soul. And they're they're not fighting in a polite way. With philosophical discussion about who should be punished or who should be not, and how should they be punished. So in any case, so there's the Vishnu Dutas are speaking about the holy name. The potency of the holy name, we've been chanting the holy name, so it's not to be taken by the Yamadutas. It's not to be brought in front of Yamaraj. Because we could then think, very good, I'm chanting the holy name, I don't need to be taken in front of Yamaraj, I can sin. But then we heard the other day, then we're committing is that the seventh offense? Seventh offense of the chanting of the holy name, when we sin on the strength of the chanting of the holy name. And with this kind of mentality, we will never get out, this way of chanting, we will never get out of the fruitive mentality that is the cause of our being bound and tied down in this material existence. So he has been given some points about the holy name, how potent it is. Even if you don't know what it is, or you just hear it, you're purified, you're rectified in so many ways. And it's that here is in the previous verse, as a fire burns dry grass to ashes, so the holy name of the Lord, whether chanted knowingly or unknowingly, burns to ashes without fail all the reactions to unsinful activities. So that sounds very good. Now, then today, if a person, today then there is a point, you're giving the medicine, you don't know what the medicine, you're ignorant. Here Prabhupada translates, he says that you're ignorant, but somehow you get the medicine, even if they force you to take the medicine. Say, no, I don't want this medicine. I don't want this chanting Hare Krishna. Sometimes we're forceful in our preaching with the idea that with that we'll save the poor conditioned souls, because hopefully it saves ourselves also to engage in the preaching. Okay, this way, he's knowing or not knowing, he gets a medicine, he gets cured. And that is stated here is, because it's potency. The potency of the medicine does not depend on the patient. There is, though of course I have a reflection, it's a small difficulty with it. Difficult. The Ayurveda, what I read, said it's one thing, you get the medicine, but in one sense, if you're going to receive the full benefit, if you receive the medicine with faith, most probably it will have more effect. So that is like a principle. So in that way we can say that could make a difference. And then, of course, there's another factor is a very potent medicine given by the physician. Someone knows the potency. The patient don't know that, but the physician knows the potency. And thus, actually, by the knowledge of the physician, the ignorant is relieved. So in that way, we are receiving the holy name. Prabhupada came with the holy name of the Lord, of the Hare Krishna mantra, and spread it all over the world. And why it had such an effect? In one sense, because the physician administrated it was in full knowledge, fully aware. Whereas if you're not fully aware, physician is not so aware, he may or may not know exactly what medicine to administrate, so to say. So we can say, first of all, we just get it, we get a little bit purified, rectified, but in one way the more we are open for it and willing to take in the medicine and take the, so to say, healing power of the medicine, the more likely it will so to say enter deeper. Yajamil was lucky because he was such in a frightened state, in one sense. And then the Lord's messengers came and he was chanting the holy name in this frightened state. What I thought of is one thing is the one who that there's the one who gives the medicine, and then there's the one who receives the medicine. So now our challenge is to receive it in a proper mood. We can say, we heard the other days also part of the story was how you're preaching on the pubs and things like that. We have experience of something like that, or on a festival and people are drunk and whatever. And there are many times, oh yes, what is this? What's going on? But many times it has very shallow effect. If you preach to someone who's drunk, it actually doesn't really click. It doesn't really go deep in. So when someone is intoxicated, it's difficult to effectively change them, or it's difficult for them actually to take the medicine or understand what's going on, or getting the full benefits. So therefore, but this whole world is like in an intoxicated state. So that we can say that's a bodily concept of life, that's a material consciousness. Means that we in one way or another are intoxicated. And because of our intoxication, we can't really, well, we maybe take it, but we are not able to reciprocate, so to say. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, it's also spoken about happiness. So the happiness in ignorance, and we can say that's the happiness of intoxication. We're blind to self-realization. Then there's the happiness of the mode of passion. And that is very nice in the beginning. It's sweet, nectar, yes. But then at the end it becomes like poison. But that could be the beginning of happiness in the mode of goodness. When you get to the suffering point of the happiness, then you may turn into the mode of goodness happiness, if you're lucky, if you're a little bit enlightened. Because, okay, the happiness in the mode of goodness is in the beginning like poison, but the end like nectar, and favorable for self-realization. So in that way, if we voluntarily accept the medicine and the regime coming with the medicine, that may be a little bit difficult, but then we become purified, rectified, and we are actually reformed. So we have to give up all kind of intoxications. Not all kind of intoxications, but there is maybe wealth, positions. Well, we could also be intoxicated by too much prasadam. That's not a bona fide to be intoxicated by it, but at some point maybe we have to regulate ourselves a little bit in that matters also. And then, of course, we can be intoxicated by chanting the holy name also. Well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became like sometimes a madman when he first got the holy name. He was initiated by a spiritual master. He became like a madman, and he wondered what is going on. Okay, but otherwise, it's material intoxications. So I have to gradually be given up in order to actually fully understand or be able to take the full benefit of the chanting of the holy name. So here is giving way. Of course, this is the kind mercy of the Bhagavatam and the Acharyas. We're giving this very positive view or very positive understanding of the chanting of the holy name and the effect. There is an effect, even though the person is drunk. So I may say, well, okay, don't preach to drunkards. We could say, well, in the West, we can't say that because then we may not have anyone to preach to, so to say. So there's always, but still, we may be seeing, okay, there's a little bit different. You give the medicine in this way, and then we give them some prasadam, and then when they're more purified, then they can take to deeper understanding of Krishna consciousness, or we can preach more philosophy. And it's also like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he preached basically kirtan and prasadam. And then those who he actually spoke deep philosophy with was a select few who was actually qualified. So in that way, so in one sense, when I first went not book distribution, Harinam in Germany in 1970. So they said, look for the ones who are, look for the devotees. So we're reaching out to everyone, but we're kind of looking. Okay, maybe we're fishermen. Sending out seed. We're trying to catch the devotees, so to say. There's so many coming, but then who is the devotee? Who is a little bit interested? Who is a little bit positive? So then when they're a little bit positive, then it's well worth to give your energy to such a person. Because even if they're not positive, okay, Jagaya and Madai. Here we have Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur who just simply said, no, they should be. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Patita Pavana, it's a savior of the most fallen, so we have to specifically preach to them. So they had a interesting exchange. And actually that is the potency of the strong preacher, that even in that situation they actually managed to change this Jaga and Madai into pure devotees. Because here's interesting, what is a pure devotee? How pure do you have to be a pure devotee? One in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the beginning, there is a mention about that Lord Chaitanya was making theater plays, and then Prabhupada says in the purport that we should make theater plays, but the transcendental plays, but they should be performed by pure devotees. And think, okay, how can we make any plays where do we have any pure devotees, enough pure devotees? But then Prabhupada just says, well, pure devotee means one who follows the four regulative principles. He's a devotee and follows the four regulative principles. So he's kindly putting it that way. And that we can say here also is, well, he has mentioned illicit activities, but we have our regulative principles. Four regulative principles basically is a counter of the sinful activities mentioned here. So now we need to qualify to be qualified physicians. Okay, we're coming into Sampradaya, so in one sense, we don't have to invent anything. We don't have to make anything new. It may take a little different flavor when you're preaching in the West or in India. It could be so. Just my speculation in a way, but principle is the same. That is, the physician, the knowledge of the physician has some effect on how the medicine is taken. And maybe also the physician, whether the patient understands or not, but if the physician understands and thus has faith and is very confident, then the patient says, he don't know, but he will take, we can say, in good faith, and thus he will be reformed. He will getting a good chance to be reformed. You can also see in the Bhagavatam, okay, that is, okay, so I said, look for the devotees. You know, if you're going to take time to preach where the grass is green. So there, where people are willingly to take in or reciprocate or understand. Now here in the Bhagavatam, we see that the great talks of the Bhagavatam was many times just person to person. But you're getting like, Sutta Goswami is speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya. So he has a very qualified audience. And then they think he is qualified. And then they ask him, please speak. Because they are making yajna, sacrifice, and not much is coming out of that sacrifice besides a lot of smoke. They're getting black from the smoke. So they want to hear from him because they have faith in him that he is a qualified. Okay, in the when Sutta Goswami explains in the 3rd chapter, the last verse, that's a nice verse, because here, one thing, who are we going to preach to, but also how should we qualify, okay, we are the patients. In one sense, we're giving, but we're also receiving. So we are the patients. So how can we be good patients? Good patients that take advantage of the holy name and the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So then it says, okay, Sutta Goswami actually was present when Sukadev Goswami was preaching to Parikshit Maharaj. And then it says, I heard him with rapt attention, and thus by his mercy, he listened to rapt attention, and thus by his mercy, and thus by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him, and as I have realized it. So that's quite interesting. He has heard it, he listened with rapt attention when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking, and thus by his mercy, by the mercy of the speaker, he could understand something. But there was a mercy of the speaker, but also the qualification of the audience. The audience was attentive. Now, and then of course now he's trying to give it on, but it's interesting, it says, I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I've realized it. So there is some realization also. So it's not just not repeating as a parrot. But I suppose that's also what we experience as devotees. If it was all just repetition as a parrot, we would all speak just the same thing. Each lecture should be the same. Well, that's interesting with this Krishna consciousness because it's very personal and individual. So I gave lecture today, some other gave yesterday and before. They're going to have a whole month here of different lecture speakers, and they're all going to speak in their way, in a different way, in a different way, but at the same time in the same way, based on Guru Sadhu Shastra. And we can say according to their understanding and share that. Then later on it says in the purport, okay, the word nivista means that Sutta Goswami drank the juice of Bhagavatam through his ears. That's wonderful. So yeah, we are here now in Kartik, and there's plenty of place for chanting and hearing, and hopefully the nectar of the Bhagavatam and of the holy name will enter through that juice will enter through our ears and fill our sep, rejuvenate us. Rasayana, it will be a rejuvenating juice, healthy, very healthy, most spiritually healthy. And then it's simple, well it says, Prabhupada says, simple hearing is not all. One must realize the text with proper attention. Because then we heard also, Tadvidi Pranipatana Pariprashnana Sevaya, Upadekshanti Jnanam Jnaninas Tatvadashinaha. So there is, okay, you surrender to Guru, to the speakers, surrender to sitting down and listening. It may also be an austerity. We do our best to speak, and you do your best to listen, okay? So we're surrendering. Then we submit ourselves, we put relevant inquiries, and then we render service. So we can say we take the instructions, apply them in our life, and thus they have effect on our life, on our being. So now we're trying to hear. So then Prabhupada says, one should hear with rapt attention from the real person, and then he can at once realize the presence of Lord Krishna in every page. That's awesome. Realizing Krishna in every page. And we also, well, Krishna is so much present here. We are in Krishna Balaram Mandir, Gonitai, Krishna Balaram, and Radhisham Sundar, Vishaka Lalita. Okay. And he says, Krishna, realizing Krishna in every page. So you want to see Krishna? Well, then take the Bhagavatam, study it carefully. There is Krishna on every page if we have when we properly, with attention, study and hear. And serve, active service, putting into action. Then it says, the secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. This is the secret. Listen. The great secret. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But somehow or other, if when someone hears with rapt attention from the right person, at the very beginning he can assuredly see Lord Krishna in person in the pages of the Bhagavatam. But here is nice, it's a nice promise, or not just a bait, something that make you go for it, but an instruction. No, this will be if we listen properly, if we can listen with rapt attention. And to be rapt attention one has to be pure in mind. Thus we have four regulative principles is such a relief. Pure food, pure association, pure occupation. In case, pure in our life, pure in different purity, pure in mind. To be pure in mind, we have to be pure in so many ways in our life, what we do. Who we associate with, how we associate, how we earn our money maybe, what we eat, how we eat, even if there's prasada, maybe if we overeat, it may or may not be good in the long term for our spiritual well-being. We should take prasada, good quality prasada. We should take quality association, quality chanting. We can also have but sometimes it's like quantity brings about quality. Yes, quantity is also a quality. In any case, that was someone said that during the Second World War, who had many tanks. That was not Hitler. Okay, is that, otherwise they thought, oh, they're primitive or whatever, but they had many tanks. So that is, the quantity is also quality. So therefore, if one can increase the quantity, it improves the quality. So therefore, now we are lucky. We are in the month of Kartik in Vrindavan at Krishna Balaram Mandir that Prabhupada established and was inaugurated 1975. I was lucky to be here at that time. Okay. And then I'm sitting, by Krishna's grace, I'm sitting here today, qualified or not, doesn't matter. Maybe the amount of years gives some qualification, quantity. What is beautiful is that then I think, oh look, here's this tree. Of course, it's not the same tree as the time of Prabhupada, but it's the same tree. It's the same spirit. It's a Tamil tree. I'm so blessed to sit under a Tamil tree at Krishna Balaram Mandir, the first days of Kartik. And then we have Srimati Tulsi Devi, who is the goddess, Vrindavan. She's a forest goddess, or the Vrinda Devi, who is like the mother of devotion. So we're sitting here in Vrindavan. So we are lucky we are here on this auspicious time, and we will in various ways make endeavors to speak and to hear and to relish and maybe purify ourselves and rectify and enter into the spirit of devotion to Radha and Krishna, and thus make our life perfect and complete. So that at the time of death, we should not be like Ajamil. Because somehow or another remember Krishna and chant his name at the time of death. But we should not be like Ajamil, but a positive, glorious devotee who live and enter into the spiritual world in full glory. Maybe not Vimanas will come down and pick us up, but we have this opportunity now do something. And then we can say 1 month, okay, if you're going to do austerities, make it in the month when it's most auspicious. So that we can also say, just like chanting holy name, Mangal Artik, Brahmamurta, these early hours are specifically useful or conducive for chanting and for meditating and hearing. And if you sit under the Tamal tree here, it's also very conducive. Trees are very nice because they have the power field around them, and you put you more in it's easier to meditate. So we have examples like that. Narada Muni in his previous life and others. So in that way, that environment is very conducive and favorable for the chanting and the hearing. So we have now a very favorable situation, very favorable time. So we try to take as much advantage as possible by this slot of time to engage in the devotional activities. And then that will carry us on. Okay, we can continue afterwards also. Keep going. Okay, Hare Krishna. Now maybe there is some question or comment, I don't know. There's a back.
Thank you, Maharaj. What's the difference between an intellectual thought and a realization?
Well, that's a Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No, it's still on, okay, good. Well, the intellectual thought, I don't know if it will change your life so much, but when there's a realization, there will be a change of your life and change of your heart. So we can say in the intellect, that's maybe our Western, what do you call it, problem, that we tend to be intellectual and maybe academical. I don't know, devotee academics, I think, is great in many ways. But sometimes maybe then you're into intellectual way of thinking about things, and then going to speak about Krishna. It may turn a little bit dry, so to say. So the intellect that was Carl Jung. He this psychologist, okay. He went to USA and he met with some Red Indians, and the Red Indians said, These Europeans and Westerners, they're crazy. So then he said, oh, how so? Well, they think with their head. So now, if you think with the head and it's not connected to your heart, then it's that little bit scary. Because then you maybe intellectually think something, you may end up killing millions of people because intellectually you think that is the right thing to do. Okay, so there is realization is on a deeper level, we can say, of the heart. Of course, the heart is a sitting place of the mind, of the soul, and of the super soul. And the real deep feelings are in the heart or in the chest. You don't feel sad. I don't feel sad in my head, okay? I feel sad in my chest. The sadness is felt in the chest. Love is two hearts, of course with an arrow through it, really painful. Okay, love is a problem. Just give a warning. The illusion of love, it can be so painful, because still we fall in whatever. So the deep emotions, the deep things are in the heart. And then we can say the deep realizations and understanding are in the heart. Whereas we can say the intellectual stuff is more just in the head, if we say like that. So we try to bring it deep. Okay, thank you. Now was there something? There's one there also. But 1 second. 1 second. Here's Prabhu. He ended up first.
You mentioned that Super Swami has understood it by the and mercy of the speaker also.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that?
Well, let's see. I don't know really. Well, it says, I heard him with rapt attention, and thus by his mercy I learned the Bhagavatam from the great and powerful sage. But that in a way is like Srila Prabhupada said when he went to see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. He does say, well, I went and I wanted to hear. Whether I understood it or not, I don't. It was not always possible, so easy to understand. But I listened. I wanted to hear what he was speaking. So in that way, he could, so to say, speak, or he took it in. Because he listened with attention, he wanted to know, even if he did not so to understand. And that's another thing, hopefully. You have heard what I've said. You may also have heard what I did not say. There may also be other levels of communication than just the verbal, so to say. So with attention, listen. Of course, then the Bhagavatams, here is Krishna on every page. So it's not just a dry book. It's not just a print of the paper. It's a message and Krishna comes through. Okay, so in that way. By hearing, getting the blessing, we can understand, hearing with attention. Okay, Prabhu over there had some. Yes. One second. No, it's. Okay, so your question and maybe understanding you want. Is whether Ajamil, he was not a Brahmana. No, he was not a Vaishnava. He was a Vaishnava, not the Vaishnava, I mix it up now. Brahmana background, they had fruitive activities, but also some maybe bhakti and devotion. And then, but he wasn't really a Vaishnava. But then when he heard the explanation of the Vishnu Dutas, then he understood. So that was what you said. And then, if it is so, well, it sounds to me as I think this is a very nice point you make. That he actually, at that point, he actually couldn't understand what the holy name of the Lord is, and thus he was saved. So that's maybe the difference. Others may chant without being Vaishnavas, so therefore we like to hear from the Vaishnavas. Prabhupada said the pure devotees, and of course that's another, in this record Prabhupada said milk touched by the lips of the serpent has a poisonous effect. So sometimes the holy name or hearing about Krishna from a non-Vaishnavas or a Mayavadi may have a counterproductive effect. So, Hare Krishna, thank you. Time-wise, it's okay. Is that okay? There's a matter. Do you want to put a question also? And I think that's.
Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful lecture. Maharaj, you mentioned quantity is also quality. Could you please explain that? Because what we have heard is when quantity increases, quality suffers.
And I said, okay, I said quantity is a quality. That I said also. Then what did you say that?
When quantity increases, quality suffers.
When quantity increases, quality suffers. Well, could be. At the same time, I could say, well, then I just say, Hare Krishna. Oh, I said Hare Krishna this morning. I don't have to do anything more. I mean, if I take it to the extreme, so to say. So my personal life is the times when I've been blessed to chant a little bit more, maybe during Kartik, maybe the quality has also increased. But now there is certainly so that just quantity itself, I mean, it should lead, if it leads to increased quality, that's good. Otherwise, if I just chant and it gets dry, and like that, and chant trying and pushing, then we can say if it gets dry, it means the quality is decreasing. So some or other, we have to, chant with attention, because that we say the 10 offenses, and then we have a final addition that to be inattentive while chanting the holy name is another offense, but it actually is the root of the others. So we should chant with attention, whether it's little or it's much, but in either case it has to be with intention, then it can grow and continue. If there's no attention, if we just try to do quantity, it will not really bring us, it will not so easily bring us to the full fruit until we actually maybe come to why am I doing this? Okay, let's be serious. So then pay attention. So, so I say chant with attention. That's either whether it's much or little bit, it should be done with attention, preferably. Thank you. And one finished. Okay, yes.
If I mention that quantity, when we are having food, modified prasad, is okay, it can be tossed. At the same time, there is an aspect of love for prasad versus getting the mercy of Krishna from prasad. Atyahara versus the prayoga.
Okay, yes, to be lusty for prasadam, I want to get, yes, thank you.